My next guest is the host of the long-running national public radio show Fresh Air. She's also author of this brand new book, All I Did Was Ask: Conversations with Writers, Actors, Musicians, and Artists. Please welcome Terry Gross. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, my pleasure.
Now, I want to ask you something. First of all, I'm curious. People obviously, when I walk around, they recognize me because of my freakish form, which they know from the television show. You're in a very different situation. Your voice is known. People don't often, know what you look like. They can be big fans of yours and they know your voice. How do fans react to just hearing your voice? Do they recognize it immediately?
Well, sometimes they do, and it's often when you're having this really private conversation and then someone says, oh, I like your show, and you think, what did I just say?
Right, right. And I'm sorry you're on that medication. So do you ever get noticed if you call in for a pizza, or recognized if you make a phone call?
Sometimes, like making airline reservations or something. But the weird thing is when people actually see me after just having heard my voice, like in my interview with you, you say that people think that they don't realize you'd be that tall. When they see me, sometimes they think I'm going to be larger than life.
Right.
Because you're big on the radio.
Right.
And they see me, and I'm smaller than life.
Right.
I mean,
right.
I am so small that I shop sometimes a Gap for kids.
Oh, really?
I have a bomber jacket. I thought I'll get a cool bomber jacket. I've always wanted one. You open it up, it says, "This jacket belongs to." Just write my name in it.
Never a good sign. Yeah. No, that's funny. Well, most celebrities, and I can attest to this, are smaller than you think they're going to be. I'm one of the few that's larger and better smelling than anyone would ever imagine. The book, All I Did Was Ask, has a lot of interviews in it, and one of them is the interview with me that you did. And then I thought today, you just put that in there so that I'd book you on the show so that you could promote the book.
No, that's right.
That's ingenious.
On my calendar, today is marked as Conan O'Brien Payback Day.
Very nice. It works. My ego is such like, we must book her. I am in book. We talk about book. I in book. Book me.
One of the things that I really love about the interview with you in the book, one of the reasons I really wanted to put it in, well, two reasons in particular. One is that you talk about tap dancing when you were a kid and how you're
mentioned on the show. Crazy.
You're right there.
No, yeah. Well, it's funny. I came from this complete non-show business background, but for some reason I had this idea in my head that I wanted to be an entertainer when I was 6 years old. And I remember when I was 6 or 7 telling my parents, I need tap dancing lessons. You need to know how to tap dance when you're in show business. No, you don't. Unless you're Tony Danza, but other than that.
And then another thing you say in the interview, you talk about how when you walk around and you're just lost in thought, and you're in neutral, it reads to people as sad or depressed, and people are always thinking you're sad or depressed.
Right.
And the same thing has happened to me all my life, particularly when I was a kid, when I was just lost in thought, which I usually am, or there's some old song going through my head. Maternal women would always come up to me and go, "Dear, what's wrong?"
Right, right.
And it would just be so depressing because I thought, well, everything's fine. Do I look that tragic, And then on those rare occasions when I'm interviewing somebody on TV, when I'm listening, I just become this giant antenna, and that "oh dear, what's wrong" look comes across my face. So
you get, instead of like being present and all happy.
Instead of being really engaged, I think I look something like. and then there's a voice in my head saying, "Terry, smile," and I go. So
then you look insane because you're listening. But that's interesting. I've found that people they want me to be this dancing clown all the time. And I am 99% of the time. But every now and then I'll just be, I know what you're talking about. You just be neutral, and people think that you're crashing into a terrible depression.
Exactly.
Which isn't the case. Now, you don't do your interviews. I've done your show, I believe, at least
Twice.
2 times. And I never met you face to face because you're in a separate studio somewhere else. So when you go in for the interview, you put on headphones. We have this conversation, and you're not there. You're in Philadelphia.
Right, right.
Does that, do you think, help the interview in some way?
Well, sometimes I think it does, because it's pure sound. Anything that you want to tell me or I want to tell you has to be in our voices. We can't, like, nod or smile. So it's kind of pure radio. It means any part of the communication the listeners get to hear, too.
Right.
And then sometimes it's surprising. Like, I love it when there's, someone who I've always admired is in the studio, like when I interviewed Kevin Spacey or John Travolta, and they were in the studio. There's something at the same time really distracting about it, because you're thinking, like, okay, in the last movie they didn't look this tall, or
Right.
he's any more or less attractive than you imagine from on screen. And suddenly, instead of thinking what your next question is, you're thinking about how the person looks. And
So you're not distracted by their
helpful.
celebrity.
Exactly, yeah.
I might try that here. I might just not be here. I'll do the comedy, but then when the celebrities come out, I could be gone. I could be backstage like some phantom figure talking to them in a disembodied voice.
Well, the other thing is sometimes I'm interviewing people and I have to ask really tough questions.
Right.
And you know that they're not going to want to hear those tough questions. And if they're shooting me this angry, withering look,
Right.
Who knows? Maybe I'd be intimidated. Long distance, no problem.
So you interviewed me twice and I wasn't right there. Are you distracted now by the proximity of my fat orange Irish head? Is it bothering you?
I think we could both talk about how pale we are.
Yeah. See, it's rattling you right now. This giant, crazy big boy head right here. It's wrong. Well, all I did was ask. Conversations with writers, actors, musicians, and artists is available now, and it's an honor. It was very nice to find out that you included me in the book. And, of course, check your local listings for Fresh Air on National Public Radio. Very cool to have you here. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
Terry Gross. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Well, folks, that's our show. I do want to thank all my guests. Listen for Last Call with Carson Daly. Goodbye!